The year is 1967. The venue, Monterey Pop Festival. That's right. Who'd you think was there? Oh, Mojo was, that's for sure. That was the late 60s. I was bumming around with some of the best musicians of the time. I was hanging with Clapton, hanging with Jeff Beck. But I spent the most time with a man by the name of Jimi Hendrix. That's right. Old Mr. Jimmy. Jimmy, baby, he could play a guitar like nobody's business. So it only made sense for me, old Mojo Johnson, to spend a little time with him, you know. And Jimmy was getting ready for the pop festival, you see. Monterey was his big American debut. Now don't forget, Jimmy might have been American, but he had himself some British boys in the rhythm section between Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding. So he was pretty big on the British pop scene, the British rock scene, what have you. He hadn't yet made his big debut in America. Well, Jimmy ran into some trouble then. One night, a couple hours before his set, me and him sharing a bottle of Chivas Regal, very fine, very fine. And he says to me, he says, Mojo, I gotta tell you something, I'm a little worried. I said, Jimmy, what you worried about? You are by far the best guitar player here. He said, it's not that. He said, it's the fact that I gotta make a statement. I gotta make myself known to the world, to America. I said, wow, now that's pretty heavy stuff, what you got in mind? That's when he said, I don't know. I was wondering if you could help me out with this. I said, Jimmy, I got some ideas, but I gotta know what you're worried about first. Jimmy looks at me and says, I'm worried about The Who. I said, The Who? He's like, yeah, it's a band. They call themselves The Who. I said, I know what you're talking about. But what you worried about? Well, let's put it this way. The Who and Jimmy had very similar ways of finishing their acts. They like to smash shit up, like to break stuff. Not the Limp Bizkit way, but the old-fashioned way. Take your guitar and slam it on the ground. Blow up your drum set. Whatever you gotta do to go deaf in one ear. Pete Townsend. So Jimmy says that's what I'm gonna do. Now recently, him and Jimmy, meaning Pete Townsend and Jimmy, had flipped a coin to see who would go first. Well, it was gonna be The Who. So The Who was gonna smash all they shit up before Jimmy got the chance to. And Jimmy said, that's what I'm worried about, because if I go on stage, start smashing things like I usually do, all the crowd people, they just gonna think I got no style, I got no creativity. And I said, Jimmy, here's what you gonna do. Now listen, because this is gonna sound a little funky strange. So I started telling him what he was gonna do. Little backstory, I'd just been to India. I was there bumming around with Ravi Shankar. It was a good time, 1967 with Ravi in India. You walk along the street, you see a lot of snake charmers. The way they made them cobras rise out of the basket gave me inspiration from Mr. Hendrix. And I said, Jimmy, baby, what you gonna play for your last song? He looked at me and said, I think it was obvious that I should play Wild Thing. I said, Jimmy, you want to show them the real wild thing inside of you? You lay your guitar down. You kneel beside it like a penitent man at the end of the song, at the end of a Rick Rollin solo, where the notes, they just tear the people up. Well, Jimmy was lefty, but this is confusing for me, so I'm going to go righty. You're going to tear it up with a solo, with your teeth, behind your back, whatever you got to do, but at the end you lay it down in front of you. You lay it down with the stalk going out towards the audience and just the big guitar head right there betwixt your legs. You're going to kneel down like a penitent man. You're going to squirt it with some lighter fluid. And then, baby, you're going to light a match. You're going to throw that sucker down and watch the flames rise. And you're going to sit there chewing your gum like it ain't no big deal. And you're going to make the flames rise. You're going to conjure them like a cobra through an Indian basket. You're going to be a snake charmer for the flames, Jimmy. And Jimmy looked at me and said, Mojo, I believe you got yourself an idea. I said, Jimmy, baby, you gonna go down in history, baby. Whether you like it or not, after tonight, you going down in history.